You've been eating less, maybe significantly less, and yet the fat isn't moving, or worse, it's still going up. If that's happened to you, here's what nobody told you. The amount you eat is only part of the equation. The other part, the part that actually controls whether your body stores fat or burns it, is a hormone. And most people have no idea how it works. Every year, millions of people try the same thing. They count calories, they reduce portions, they skip meals, they do everything they were told. And a percentage of them lose weight, keep it off, and feel great. But a larger percentage don't. They lose a little, plateau, gain it back. Or they struggle to lose anything at all, despite genuinely eating less. The standard response from doctors, from the internet, from well-meaning friends is always the same. You must be eating more than you think. But what if that's not the whole story? What if your body has a system running in the background that, regardless of how much you eat, is actively choosing to store energy as fat rather than burn it? That system exists. It's called insulin. And once you understand how it works, the reason so many people struggle with their weight, despite doing what they were told, becomes completely clear. Here's the part that surprises most people. Fat cells don't fill up because you eat too much. Fat cells fill up because they receive a signal telling them to store energy. And the primary signal that triggers that storage process is insulin. Without insulin, your body cannot store fat. This is not a theory. It's basic physiology taught in every medical school. But here's where it gets interesting. In a large proportion of adults, estimates suggest somewhere between 30 and 40%, the insulin system isn't working the way it should. Their cells have become resistant to insulin's signal, and that single change creates a chain reaction that can make fat loss almost impossible, regardless of how many calories they eat. To understand why, you need to understand what insulin actually does and what it prevents. When you eat, particularly carbohydrates, your digestive system breaks that food down into glucose, which enters your bloodstream. Your blood glucose level rises. The pancreas detects this rise and releases insulin into the bloodstream. Think of insulin as a key, and think of your cells, your muscle cells, your liver cells, your fat cells, as having locks on their surfaces called insulin receptors. When insulin, the key, slots into the receptor, the lock, it opens a door that allows glucose to enter the cell and be used for energy. So far, so useful. Insulin is doing exactly what it should. But insulin has a second, equally important job that almost nobody talks about. It is the primary signal that tells your fat cells to store energy. When insulin is present in your bloodstream, your body shifts into storage mode. It takes circulating glucose, and once the liver and muscles have what they need, converts the excess into fat and stores it in fat cells. And here is the critical piece. While insulin is elevated, fat release is suppressed. Your body cannot efficiently break down stored fat for energy while insulin is high. The hormone actively blocks that process. It's called lipolysis inhibition. So the sequence is, you eat, blood glucose rises, insulin rises, cells take up glucose, excess is stored as fat, fat release is suppressed. That's the normal, healthy version of this system. After you finish eating, glucose drops, insulin drops, your body stops storing, and between meals it draws on stored energy. Balance is maintained. But what happens when that system starts to break down?
Insulin resistance is what happens when your cells stop responding properly to insulin's signal. Imagine the key no longer fits the lock cleanly. It still works, sort of, but it takes more force. The door opens more slowly, or only partially. Your cells are no longer efficiently taking up glucose from the bloodstream. Blood sugar rises higher than it should and stays elevated longer than it should. The pancreas notices this. Its job is to keep blood glucose in a safe range. So it does the only thing it can do. It produces more insulin, more keys, trying harder to open the locks. For a while, this compensates. Blood glucose comes down. But now there's a problem you can't see.
Insulin levels in the bloodstream are chronically elevated, higher than they should be, higher than the body was designed to sustain. And remember what elevated insulin does. It locks the body into fat storage mode. It suppresses the release of stored fat. It keeps the store, don't burn signal switched on. So even if this person eats less, significantly less, the elevated insulin signal is still telling their fat cells, hold on to what you have, don't release it, store whatever comes in. Their body is in a caloric deficit, but the hormonal environment is working against fat release. This is why some people can eat 1,400 calories a day, exercise regularly, and still struggle to lose weight. It is not a character failure. It is a hormonal state that calorie restriction alone cannot fix. There's a further problem. When the body can't access stored fat efficiently, it still needs energy. So it looks elsewhere. It starts breaking down muscle tissue for fuel. This is why crash dieters often lose muscle rather than fat, and why the scales can show a lower number while body composition is actually getting worse. Insulin resistance doesn't happen overnight. It develops gradually, over years, as a result of a consistently high insulin environment. The main drivers are refined carbohydrates and added sugar. Foods that are rapidly broken down into glucose cause sharp, repeated insulin spikes. Over time, constant high insulin exposure causes cells to down-regulate their receptors, essentially turning down the volume on a signal that's always blaring. This is insulin resistance beginning. Eating frequency. Every time you eat, particularly carbohydrates, you spike insulin. If you're eating every 2 or 3 hours, your insulin never has a chance to fall back to baseline. Your body never gets a window to access stored fat. Chronic stress. The stress hormone cortisol raises blood glucose as part of the fight-or-flight response. That triggers insulin. Chronic stress equals chronically elevated insulin. Poor sleep. A single night of poor sleep measurably reduces insulin sensitivity the following day. Over weeks and months, sleep deprivation is a significant driver of insulin resistance. Sedentary behavior. Muscle tissue is the primary site of glucose uptake in the body. More muscle mass means more capacity to absorb glucose without needing high insulin. Physical inactivity does the opposite. It reduces the body's capacity to handle glucose efficiently. None of this happens because of weakness. It happens because the modern food environment, stress environment, and sleep environment are all pushing in the same direction. So what actually helps? The goal is to lower chronic insulin levels and improve the sensitivity of cells to insulin signal. Here's what the evidence supports. Reduce the frequency and intensity of insulin spikes. This doesn't mean eliminating carbohydrates. It means prioritizing foods that release glucose slowly. Vegetables, legumes, whole grains, protein, and fat, rather than refined sugars and ultra-processed foods that spike glucose rapidly. Extend the time between meals. Longer gaps between eating allow insulin to fall to baseline. This gives the body a window where fat release is no longer suppressed. Even a simple 12 to 16-hour overnight fast creates this window. Move more, particularly after eating. A 10-minute walk after a meal has been shown in multiple studies to significantly reduce the post-meal glucose spike, which means a lower insulin response. Muscle contraction moves glucose into cells independently of insulin. Improve sleep. Even 1 additional hour of sleep per night measurably improves insulin sensitivity within days. This is not a lifestyle luxury, it's a metabolic lever. Manage chronic stress. Cortisol management through any reliable method, exercise, breathing practice, time in nature, reduces one of the key drivers of insulin dysregulation. These are not hacks. They are the inputs the system was designed to respond to. Fixing insulin resistance is not about eating less. It's about changing the hormonal environment so the body feels safe releasing stored fat. Let's bring this together. Your body stores fat in response to insulin, a hormone released when blood glucose rises after eating. While insulin is elevated, fat release is suppressed. This is normal, healthy physiology. The problem arises when cells become resistant to insulin's signal. The pancreas compensates by producing more insulin. Chronic high insulin locks the body in fat storage mode, even during caloric restriction. The result? Eating less doesn't automatically translate to burning fat. If the hormonal environment isn't addressed, the body will preferentially break down muscle instead. The solution isn't to eat less, it's to eat differently, reducing the frequency and intensity of insulin spikes, improving sleep, moving more, and managing stress, so that the body's fat-burning machinery can actually switch on.
If you want to understand the hidden systems shaping your body, your finances, and everything in between, that's exactly what this channel is built for. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.